How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the GSMC Chip Shot Football Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Manny Maradiege, bringing you guys another episode today on April 10th, a Wednesday, halfway through the week. Another round of topics to get into in the NFL. I'm going to start off with the biggest news probably dropping today, that the Green Bay Packers were officially selected as the team that's going to play the Philadelphia Eagles down in Brazil. I'm going to get more into that and all the details and logistics of all of that. Then I'm going to talk more about the Chargers' game plan around Justin Herbert and how they're molding their identity to be this new, tougher team that Jim Harbaugh wants to implement. Some of his coaches talked more about it, so I'm going to react to some of the things that they said. Later on in the show, I'm going to talk more about Drake May and how Merrill Hodge actually commented on what he thought of him. It was pretty harsh. Stick around towards the end of the show to find out what he said, as well as giving you my 2 cents again on the Cowboys this time around Micah Parsons and a rumor that started swirling around the media recently. Pretty ridiculous in my opinion, but regardless of that, I'm going to get into it. All of those stories coming up on today's episode. Make sure you like, follow, and subscribe to the GSMC Chip Shot Football Podcast. Before I jump into the first segment, if you guys have any comments or questions that you want to make during today's live episode, use the tip and donations link, gsmcpodcast.net, with any of those. Using this link, make sure that your question pops up in my chat box right away. I can read it on air, and we can carry on the conversation that way. It's a big help for this show, and we always send you guys a big thank you whenever you guys are able to use the tip and donations link with any of your questions. Again, that link is gsmcpodcast.net. But like I mentioned, the biggest news dropping today, the Packers and the Eagles officially made official today to be the second game of the regular season. Before, there were some talks about it being the Browns or the Packers. Those were really the main two that the NFL wanted to stick with. And there was an incident that happened with the Browns. One of their players, I think it was a defensive tackle, I can't remember his name right now, but he was on a morning show there in Cleveland, and he mentioned, in conversation when they asked him about it, he just said something like, I can't wait to play in Brazil or something like that, or we're getting ready to play in Brazil. People obviously took that and took it as a sign that it's going to be the Browns. They already told the Browns, and he just let it slip out. But nothing was made official. The Packers president, Mark Murphy, also alluded to the fact that they were looking forward to playing in Brazil before the announcement was made. He made a comment saying that people in Brazil, the fan base in Brazil, he said, we're either the first or second most popular team in Brazil. Again, people took that and ran with it as a sign that it could be the Packers as well. Until today, when it was finally made official as that second game of the regular season. The game will take place on Friday, September 6th, at Corinthians Arena in Sao Paulo, Brazil. This will be the NFL's first Friday game during the opening week of the season since 1970. That last time it was when the LA Rams hosted the St. Louis Cardinals at the Memorial Coliseum. So over 50 years since this has happened. We never get Friday games just in general during any week, not just the opening week. So again, a very monumental thing that the NFL is doing with this game. And it will be the first official game in South America for the NFL in their history. They will have other games internationally on top of this. The Panthers were announced as an international home team. They're going to be playing in Munich, Germany. The Jaguars, Bears, and the Vikings were all also announced as the home teams when each of them play in London at some point this season. Their opponents have not yet been announced. That will be later discovered when the NFL announces their whole big NFL schedule drop, where they drop everybody the week that they're playing their opponents. Everybody knows their opponents right now, but they don't know how it's going to fall in line with their schedule. Like I mentioned, this will be the second game technically of this new season in 2024. It will start traditionally, as it always does, on Thursday, with the Kansas City Chiefs hosting their opponents. Again, not yet announced who they will be facing first in that week. So that will be the second game on that Friday. And the Eagles will be the designated home team in this environment down in Sao Paulo, Brazil. This, in terms of just the Eagles and the Packers, it's both of their second all-time international games. Philadelphia had their first one back in 2018, and the Green Bay Packers had theirs a little bit more recently in 2022 when they lost to the New York Giants. And now, with all that information I just gave to you guys, my thoughts on it. Initially, when I was looking at it, the Browns, the Packers, who would I have wanted to see? I think they made the right choice here by going with the Green Bay Packers. Not only because I just think we could see a better game with them. I know the Browns are very good. They're a very impressive football team. Their defense is all world. Offensively, they got better with Jerry Jeudy. Nick Chubb's going to come back. You have to monitor how he kind of comes back, how he looks after that serious knee injury, but he's still Nick Chubb. I still have confidence in him. Amari Cooper showed that he could still go. David Njoku was a big surprise as well. But even so, I think with the Packers, you get a young, exciting team that not many people know too much about. Same with the Eagles to some extent. You bring in Saquon Barkley, so that was already a good choice by them to say that the Eagles will play in Brazil, to kind of draw in that attention of all the stars that they already have. A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith, Saquon now. That makes sense. And putting them in the game first week of the season against the Green Bay Packers not only is exciting because you have all the big names, but I think it has conference implications, tiebreaker implications that people on the day of Friday, September 6th, might not take it as too serious. People might look at the game and think, this is the first week. We expect the teams to not look sharp. This won't really matter in some aspect down the line when they're trying to get into the playoffs, but you never know the way the NFC is really from top to bottom, how competitive and close it is. Looking back now at it, week 16, week 17, where one of these teams or both of these teams, or in all honesty, neither of these teams is trying to get into the playoffs, say it's close and it's coming down between the two of them, this game is going to be looked upon as much more significant for 6 months down the line than it does, and it will look on Friday, September 6th. So that's another thing that I think just makes sense, rather than playing the Browns where no real implications other than you lose your first game or you win your first game that really matter. And on top of that, now this got me thinking of long-term plans for the NFL and how they want to explore this avenue now, because they're exploring now South America. If you know much about the fan base in South America, it's all about soccer and things like that. They love really just mainly soccer down there. They're crazy about it. And if you can get them to look at the NFL similarly and just be interested in it, I think this game is just that pathway to it. And down the line, you could talk about maybe going elsewhere in South America. Probably only Argentina as the next sort of place that you could really want to explore, to send one of these teams down there. They have the capacity in some of their biggest stadiums. Boca Juniors has a massive stadium there where it holds a ton of people. That could be an idea for them if they want to continue on playing games in South America. River Plate has another one that's a big draw. That's a big place to hold a bunch of fans. If they become fans of the NFL and they want to come watch these games, that's another place they could explore. Then as well in Europe, again, mostly dominated by soccer, but there are venues there that attract a lot of people and hold a lot of people, and I think can bring in these crowds to at least watch and be entertained by these football games. The biggest one that jumps out at me right now is the Santiago Bernabeu. Real Madrid play there. Massive stadium, massive draw in Europe. Exploring that wouldn't be a bad option for them to just grow the game even more, because it's slowly getting there. You see the scenes from Germany a bunch of times. if they might not know what's going on in the game, which is fair. It's a fairly new game to them to go and watch and actually know what's happening. But you see them having a good time, consuming beverages there, having a great time, singing along to the songs. Everybody starts singing simultaneously. It's a great environment. Besides the game, the score, whatever team they're rooting for, it's a great environment to just go and explore other fan bases and just see their reactions to the game. The results don't really matter as much, which is a refreshing thing to see in these foreign places, where in America and in the United States, a lot of the times we just get bogged down on the results and how teams won or lost, and then we get all caught up on that, where other places just take it more in as a spectacle, don't really mind it, and that's refreshing to see. You always get those videos of fans singing, the crowds being engaged with it. I think from that point, the NFL will just grow more and more. I threw out some places where they could explore if they want to continue to grow it in these areas, but we'll see where they go. Australia could be another cool one, I think, just of that similarity there with rugby and how big of a sport that is over there. Just some ideas that got me thinking after this game was announced, thinking of how this could all go down in South America. There will be, I'm sure, some doubts, some downsides of this, but overall, I think it's a positive thing for the NFL. I think people are going to really like it once they take in the atmosphere, the spectacle that the NFL puts on for all these games. I think they're going to like it. I think it's going to be very well received in South America and other places they decide to grow. I'm excited to see how it is received as well through social media, by watching the game as well. I'm surely going to tune into that game to see how it goes. On top of it being a great game, that extra stuff is really going to be an eye-opener, draw crowds in, watching the game. It's a great thing that the NFL is doing. Hopefully they continue on that path. But in the meantime, that's still months away. We're going to continue on with the show. We're going to go to a quick break right now, and on the other side of it, I'm going to go deeper into the Chargers' game plan, specifically around their offense and around Justin Herbert, how they mainly want to focus on him and trying to get the best out of him heading into 2024. So stick around, a lot more to talk about on today's episode. You're watching the GSMC Chip Shot Football Podcast.